What it do? GariTalks coming at you live from Las Vegas. I am in Chinatown at the Chinatown Mall. Give you a little peek of the this is the entrance. Yeah. I'm here with Roland, who's in the car, my new travel mate. He was actually my original partner in the summertime when I was heading to Tahoe the first time. And then he went back to Miami and rejoined. So now we're traveling together, which has been really cool. This is a segment for Tea and Tools for my newsletter that I do once a month. It has been really challenging to write this newsletter this month. I've been doing this thing called Grief-sember, so spending some time mourning every day. I was wearing makeup before to dramatize it, but the idea is I started to realize we have a really interesting relationship with gratitude and grief, where a lot of things that cause us pain and cause us harm and make us sad, we are like, oh, I'm grateful that happened, which is it's part of it for sure, but there's also what happens to the sadness or the sorrow or the loss or the emptiness that happens because of the thing. Of course, there's the things that we're grateful for, but there's also the literal sheer loss that we experience, be it through every new beginning is an ending, right? Or be it from when you start a new relationship or you end a really toxic relationship and you become a better you, right? There's a loss, there's an ending there, there's a grief there. And so even in the example of a toxic situation, say you leave an unsafe situation, of course there's a gratitude that you made it out, that you chose better for yourself and all those things, and at the same time something really, really traumatic happened to you, right? And we should be allowed to grieve that. So that's what I've been really in this month. And it's because of this experience, actually, that I'm about to share with you. And also this time I don't have any tools, but I have lessons. I have 3 lessons that I learned from this experience that I had with my mom around Thanksgiving. It was around her birthday, which was the 26th, the day after Thanksgiving in America. And the summary of it was, and so the tea of it is, my mom and I have a very complicated relationship. I feel like most of us know that at this point. And I feel like a lot of us can relate to the things. Do I summarize the relationship with my mom? My mom is a single parent. She had me at 25. And after coming to America, after being forced to come to America. And it was just she and I for a while, right? For most of my life until I was 17 when she had my brother. Prior to teenage years, everything was really, really amazing. My mom and I were best friends. We got along really well. Told each other secrets, all that kind of stuff. Things started to shift in high school, right? As they do when teenagers want their own stuff and parents refuse to let them have it. You're in the process of individualization, right? You're trying to individuate. I'm my own person. Parents be struggling with that. So we started to have tension probably around 14, 15. And then there was this one summer where my mom was kind of wilding out. She met this dude. She started drinking again. At that time, she hadn't been drinking for 2 years. And ultimately from that, my brother was born. I'm not going to get into all the stuff around my brother because he has his life, he got a lot going on. His dad, his family dynamics are pretty complex and intense. So I'm not going to get into all of that. But what I will summarize is that whole situation with how my brother was conceived, the father that my mom chose, or the man that my mom chose to father her child, mixed with my mom, when she was dating this man, it changed who she was too. She transformed, and I saw her as a human for the first time, and nobody at the time had the words to tell me that our relationship is dying, as I knew it. With this new man and also with the child that came along, right? A lot of things changed, and nobody just gave me the words, which I think would have really helped me at the time. Your relationship is dying. There's something new being born here. It was actually my therapist who first mentioned the words dynamic. Your dynamic is shifting, and that was really, really helpful. So I decided to talk to my mom about it because Thanksgiving was supposed to be with my brother's dad and a lot of his family. So I was I just want to tell you, I'm coming into the space activated. I'm still coming, but this is what's alive for me whenever I'm in a space about this. Because we haven't all sat down to just have a frank conversation about it. We've had it in pockets, we've had it in moments, but I feel like there's a lot that needs to be addressed before we can just come together and gather as a family. So I was just trying to be honest about where I was at. My mom was okay with it. It went kind of left. My mom does this thing where when I share with her, she can't listen. She must tell me her justification. As I've learned, it's because she thinks I'm asking her questions versus trying to share my experience with her. So it was via text. It got okay. Thanksgiving Day was fine. There was a blowout between her and my brother's dad. The next day was my mom's birthday. He left the house. It was just a lot. There was a lot of stuff going on. And obviously it's also on my mom's birthday, so it's like a really, I think it's heartbreaking that this is happening all on this day. But also, this is what's hard when your feelings haven't been validated. It's so hard to try to validate anybody else's feelings, especially when, let me be clear, I wanted my mom to validate my feelings in terms of just being like, I hear you. I hear that you're in pain. I don't need to do nothing with it. I just hear that this is the experience that you're having. Which she could not do. It took her like 3 days after that till we could get to that acknowledgement. But then she wants me to be able to hold space for her, and that's what I realized. A lot of my childhood, a lot of my life has been making space for my mom at the expense of myself. And so that conversation went really poorly. It went really poorly. My mom, she's shouting, "I'm sorry." And I remember in the text, when we were in the text message phase, she was like, how do you know how I feel? I'm like, but do you realize that every single time it's me coming to talk to you about my feelings, and all of a sudden we knee deep in your feelings? This is a problem for me. So then I'm not going to share with you because it seems like it's a problem when I share. It activates too much in you that now I have to. It's actually more detrimental now. I'm dealing with so much more than if I just hadn't done anything in the first place, or just kept it to myself, or spoke to my safe people about it. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, all that the 3 tips that I have for you, or the 3 lessons that I gathered from this experience is: what you speak of reveals you. Somebody's inability to hold space for you does not mean that you do not deserve nor need that space to be held for you. You do. And grace and compassion are practice perspectives that require conscious effort and application. Okay? So this first one, what you speak of reveals you. I actually first heard this from James Baldwin. But like, what is coming out of your mouth, what you choose to speak about, what you imagine, your perspective, the words you share, the words of criticism you share, the judgments you share, the opinions you share, they're all coming from your inner world, from your experience, your perspective, right? And so what you choose to say will show who you are to people. So if some crazy stuff happens, let's say if something somebody curses me out, right, and I extend compassion, or I laugh, that says it depends, right? Sometimes we're using that as an avoidance thing. I could be laughing it off. There's a bunch of reasons why, right? But if I turn around and I'm like, you're a worthless fuck, what is wrong with you? It's clear that what is wrong with you is the kind of language I use, whether in my own world, I've heard it said to me, I say it to other people, but that's what is appropriate. The quality of inner talk, that's what I say is appropriate. You get what I'm saying? And I say that because a lot of the time, and this is a nuanced truth, right? Because like if somebody's giving us feedback, if someone calls you an asshole, right? You can be being an asshole. You could be being a jerk. What does asshole really mean? Probably being inconsiderate, being arrogant, maybe being apathetic. Right? There's other words we can use besides asshole. But if someone's trying to describe your behavior because you're being inconsiderate and they call you an asshole, they're probably talking about your behavior. But again, the choice of the word asshole versus saying you're being inconsiderate, you're not listening to me, I feel unheard. This is the thing I'm talking about that reveals, right? Because if you look at, for instance, how people talk to children, to me, it says a lot. If somebody's cussing out a kid, I'm like, I'm not safe in this space because you were willing to talk to a child like that. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I mean by what you speak of reveals you. The second thing is someone's inability to hold space for you does not mean that you do not deserve nor need that space to be held for you. When somebody can't hold space for us, sometimes we're like, okay, you know what, fine, I don't actually even need that space. I guess I don't even deserve that. You know, it can activate a lot of our own limiting beliefs. And I noticed myself kind of feeling like that with my mom, where it's like, I wanted to share this thing, it didn't get shared fully. And I thought that, okay, well then I'm fine. But it's like, no, I still actually need a safe space to be able to talk about this thing, these feelings that I'm experiencing. That was the point. My mom has not made it safe for me, but that doesn't mean that the feelings need to dissipate. And this is actually a childhood lesson that I'm unlearning. Just because my mom is unhappy about my discomfort or my unhappiness doesn't mean that that has to change. And it doesn't mean that I need to do something about it in terms of not feeling that way. I need to actually find a better place to go share that. Go find my safe people and tell them the story and share the experience with them, which I did. Yeah, because I feel like a lot of the time when we think other people, when they're unable to hold space for us, we think it's something that because of us, but it's not. Right? It's the same thing about that first thing. It reveals them. If they cannot hold space for your criticisms, and it's not like if you come in out of nowhere trying to criticize people and you want them to hold space for you, that's a different thing, right? But if we're having a constructive conversation, if I'm sharing my experience about you and you ask me to share it and now you can't hold space for it, that doesn't mean that I don't need the space held. And that doesn't mean that what you're doing is not harmful too, you know? And then the last one about grace and compassion are practice perspectives that require conscious effort and application. So this one was hard. I don't know, sometimes we think of extending grace and compassion as though we are doing somebody a service. Like, oh, I'm thinking about your perspective. I'm choosing to extend empathy to you. And it's like, of course, yes, thank you for the choice, right? And it is a choice for sure. But it's also like, it takes practice to approach people with genuine regard, right? Because grace and compassion are rooted in genuine regard. Because there's a difference between pity, sympathy, empathy, and compassion, right? I would say pity and sympathy often are like a condescending emotion, right? Like, oh, so sorry you're going through that. That's so unfortunate. Versus empathy is like the choice to extend yourself into somebody else's experience and like understand what they're going through. And then for me, compassion is like feeling the suffering that they're experiencing and like wanting to do something about it, but it's not the same as pity, because it's not like, oh, I feel so bad for you. It's like, I don't know, it's hard to describe that one. But I feel like compassion comes from a genuine regard, right? Like if you, I don't know, sometimes I look at, where do I feel really compassionate? I think I have become a lot more compassionate to homeless people as I sleep in my van and it's fucking cold. And I'm like, I can only imagine being, like, having no shelter, right? And it like, wow, that fucking sucks. Of course there's things you can do, but you know, just like, I don't know, there's this moment of wow, like, it's not just like, oh, I feel so bad for you, or like, that's so shitty, but like truly being in the experience of like, this is a full person going through a whole experience. That is like huge. And how I came to all of these things with my mom is obviously because, like I said, the conversation did not go super well. I was trying to say how I was feeling and she was deflecting everything, and then it got really aggressive. She was yelling at me. And that last step is actually what brought us into reconciliation. It took a couple days, but like I just was keeping it really low key because my mom was trying to. The ultimate gaslight to me is the one that happened on January 6, 2021, when people was all in the Capitol and we never talked about it. Because there's gaslighting where you say, oh, this is what happened, and someone's like, no, I never did that. And then there's the, I just am never going to talk about what happened. So then I'm left to be like, did that actually happen? So after that experience of my mom not talking to me, or not being real about what happened and me kind of avoiding it, that's when it kind of hit me. Actually, I was thinking about my mom as a whole person. Like, what is it actually, why is it that it's so hard for her to listen to me? What is actually happening in her world? What is the experience that she's undergoing? And realizing, oh, like, the reason it's hard for my mom to hear criticism is because her inner talk is probably not kind. So anything I say aligns with what she's saying. It's like, I already know that, right? And it's like, I can hold space and respect that, and I can respect what the quality of her inner world might be like, what the talk is like in there. I can honor that. I can respect that. I can really feel for how heartbreaking that is, because I know that was cultivated from her childhood. Her parents talked to her like that. Or her father did, and like throughout life people have mistreated her, so it makes sense that this is the audio in her voice. But instead of just trying to pathologize her, like, oh, well, you got a lot of shit, I was like, but what is it actually like to live in that kind of space where your mental is like that? It is possessed by harmful self-talk. Like, what is it like to carry all the experiences that my mom has carried? And the thing I'm trying to talk to her about is majorly major thing that caused her a lot of shame. So like, of course there's a lot of things that come up in this, right? And it's like, I could be a lot more graceful in it. I think in the past I would be willing to hold my tongue to spare her feelings, and I'm no longer willing to do that. However, there is still a way to be able to talk about big and heavy things without making people feel like shit. You know what I'm saying? And this whole thing was a huge practice in that. And I also left feeling like pretty complete in it too, because it's like I did yell. I did lose my cool a little bit, but like I didn't back down. But I did leave the space. Like when we were first talking and she started to escalate, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to step away now because you're yelling. Please take note. You are yelling. I'm walking away. Which was super, super, super important. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share. I've been sitting on this video for a while. It's been probably the one thing that's like keeping me from sharing the newsletter. So I figured today's the solstice. Share this shit out. Call it a day. You might hear the sound of the road. Hopefully, I'm going to re-listen to this back real quick, see how bad it is. I should wear headphones next time. But yeah, thank you all for listening. And I will have more updates for you moving forward. I'm wanting to do, I've said this before about being more consistent, and then I traveled away to New York for the month. And then coming back has been a big adjustment period to be traveling with another person in this van. But now that we have a little bit more of a routine and more of an idea of where we're heading, I can record more videos. So I will be doing that more. I've been having a great time doing little reels on Instagram. But like these longer videos where I sit down and talk and tell stories, I have a couple of them to tell y'all. I actually want to share about my mom, the story of my mom, and how I've navigated that whole space, and also of my dad. Yeah, but thank y'all for listening, and I'll talk to you later.